there are two things over here. Okay, so one is front end, and the other one is back end. Front end is nothing but whatever you see on any website, what all buttons are there, what all styles are applied. It is in circular form, it is in rectangular form, what background does it has, what color theme it has. We'll be taking an example of Flipkart, so don't worry. The front end is basically what user sees. Okay. Now, if we take an example over here, you can see we have multiple parts over here. We have multiple images. We have a carousel. This one is a carousel which moves. We have different images over here as well. We have a blue color something over here, right? Blue color line, white colors, off-white colors, the same things, blue color buttons, white color text. So these all come under front end, how the website looks. Okay, so basically, why is it of blue color only? Why it is not of red color? Because someone in the front end, like someone who was working in front end developer in Flipkart, would have given this blue color, right? That is why we are getting is blue. Why it is not orange? So whatever a user sees in any website is a front end. You can take an example of any website. Okay, so all the visual parts that you can see in a website is front end. I'll be coming to the deeper things in later half. But for now, you can understand this, that whatever you can see over here, how the image looks, these images are vertical, right? Why aren't they horizontal? This arrow is rectangular. Why it is not circular? So everything is managed by front end. So front end, we can say in very simple terms, anything what you see when you visit any website comes under front end. Now, what is back end? If you see over here, I'm getting camera over here, I'm getting printer over here. But if I come back to the same website in some other time, I won't be getting the same things, right? Also, for example, if I click on mobiles, I'll be able to see multiple mobiles listed over here, right? So the data which is coming over here, the name of the phone, the description of the phone, the price of the phone, all these details are coming from backend. What should be the image? I'll tell you why we need backend and front end. But for now, let's understand this, that whatever data we are seeing over here, that comes from backend. How does it look and feel? It has a pinkish color. It is in a rectangular box. The image is placed on the right. The text is placed on the left. This all is controlled by front end. But what to show exactly, what details to show, which image to show over here, that comes from backend. Okay. So in front end, we use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I'll be explaining all of these. And in backend, we use databases. So you can understand this in a way like you go to any grocery store and you say that give me a packet of Maggi, right? So they'll be going to the showcase where they have put the Maggi, they'll be picking it up and they'll be giving it to you. So all these data needs to be stored somewhere, right? If the data is not stored, then how we will get it? If I search iPhone over here, I am getting these data, right? So this is coming from somewhere. So database is nothing but a storage, a container that is storing all of these data, and backend is sending this to the front end. Okay. So we can simply say this, that this is a website. This is a website. This is front end. Okay. This is a database. All the data gets stored over here. And when we bring the data from database to front end, we can show it over here. We can show in any form, circular, rectangle, square. Okay, the design is a part of front end and the database is a part of back end. So to understand this, we can take a very simple example. Let's say you go to a restaurant. Okay, you sat in a table. You sat in a table. Okay, and a waiter comes. This is a waiter. And you ask, can I please get a pizza? Okay, so the waiter will take your request that the customer wants a pizza. It will go to the kitchen where chefs are there, right? It will go to kitchen. When the waiter reaches the kitchen, it will say to the chef that, hey, the customer is asking for a pizza, please make it. Now, once the pizza is created, the same waiter will grab the pizza from kitchen and it will bring to the customer, right? So this is the database. We are getting the actual data from here. We are getting the pizza from here. But this is the customer. Here we are showcasing the pizza. Here we are bringing the pizza in a plate and we are putting it in a table, right? So whatever the person can see, the person cannot see whatever is going inside the kitchen, right? The customer cannot see whatever is going inside the kitchen. He or she can only see the product that is made, the product that the waiter has brought for them, right? So the database cannot be seen from a customer's view. We cannot see whatever data this Flipkart has. It stores our card information, it stores our address, it stores our phone numbers, it stores our email address. We cannot see all of them because this is a security concern also, right? How can I see your data? That is not correct. If I'm able to see your data, I can do any malicious practices, right? So this is one of the case. So in very simple terms, you can understand the front end is what a customer can see. The look and feel of a website is front end. This all is a part of front end. How does it look and all? And whatever data we are getting, what to show over here, the title. If I search, now the data changes, right? Now we are getting Samsung Galaxy S22 5G. So this data comes from backend, and for different phones, the data will be different. The prices will also be different. The description will also be different. So all the actual information will come from backend, from the database. But how do we want it to look in the website is managed by front end. So I hope front end and backend was clear. Now, let's understand how a front end is created. Front end is created majorly with three things: HTML, hypertext markup language, CSS, cascading spell sheet, and JavaScript. Okay. So we have to learn HTML first, then CSS, then JavaScript. Okay. And why do we need to learn it? Because while creating a website, all the structures are created using HTML. Okay. If you see a house that is being built, so it is built using bricks, right? For example, the house is not completely built. It only has the bricks around it and it has the structure. So in our website, the structure is created using HTML. Like In a house, the structure is created using bricks. In website, the structure is created using HTML. CSS handles all the styling part. CSS handles all the styling part. Okay. And JavaScript is the brain of the website. JavaScript is the brain of the website. All the functionalities that a website has is written in JavaScript. So JavaScript is responsible for all the functionalities that are present in a website. Okay. Let's come back again to the same example. A house is being built. For now, the house is being built by bricks. So it is built over there. We have created the structure by using bricks. Now we will have to paint the walls as well. Yes, we will have to paint the walls so it looks nice. So over here, even if we have created a structure, we have told that it will have an image, it will have text and other things. It will have the slider. But how does it look? It looks blue. This looks black. On hovering over this, it looks blue. Right? This logo looks yellow and blue. The image is on the left, the description is on the right. The price is on the rightmost part. So all the coloring, all the placements, all the alignments are handled by CSS. So again, the example, if we paint the walls, what color want? The color of the wall we want. Let's say we are painting it red. Okay. Now, if we are placing a sofa in our hall, where do we want to place it? Near the windows, near the door, or near the wall? That alignment will also be handled by CSS. Like we were putting image on the left, description on the middle, and price on the right. It can be vice versa also, right? The price can be over here. The image can be on the rightmost part. We can do anything. But over here, CSS is written in this way that the image is always on the left. In middle, we have description. And on the right side, we have the price. Okay. So we have created a structure, we have painted it, we have told it how it will look, what colors it will contain, where the alignments of elements will be. Now comes the JavaScript part. Where do we use JavaScript? If I click on this Galaxy S22, a new page is opening, right? A new page is opening. So how did it open? This is handled by JavaScript. For example, let me open any shoes. If I click over here. Okay. On clicking of size 10, the size 10 is being selected, right? On clicking of size 6 is being selected. So all these, the logic parts, if I click on Flipkart Plus, it will lead me to the Flipkart homepage. If I click on this covers, it will open the covers page. So all the logic parts where it should lead to us on doing what? Or if I click on low to high, it will give me all the covers in an ascending order of the prices, right? So there's some logic happening in behind this. So all the logic parts are handled by JavaScript. That is why it is also known as the brain of the website. Okay. So if you look in terms of a human, the body of a human is a structure. What clothes it is wearing, he or she is wearing, what shirt color, what pants color, or what shoes color they are wearing, that is CSS. And their brain, how are they thinking, what logic are they applying on what things, is JavaScript. So this is majorly what front end is and how can we start learning. So in our roadmap, the first thing will be first to learn HTML, then to learn CSS, then we will learn JavaScript. After this, we have multiple libraries or frameworks. For example, React.js, Next.js, Angular. You might have heard about these terms, right? So these are nothing but libraries and frameworks that are built over and above JavaScript. These all are built over and above JavaScript. Why do we need to build it? Because different libraries or different frameworks help us to do some particular tasks that are important or that have more advantage than other. For example, in plain JavaScript, if we are writing the code of our website in plain JavaScript, we will have to go through multiple reasons or multiple things that will be not suitable for our website. So to improvise on this, to improvise on the plain JavaScript, React.js was created. In React.js, we don't have multiple pages. We have a single page. Only the data which is changing gets loaded on the same page. So this is the use case of React, that it is built over and above JavaScript, and it is solving a purpose that plain JavaScript cannot solve. After learning these three fundamental things, we can now hop on to one of these things. But first, we'll be learning React.js. Okay, we'll be learning HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React.js. Okay. This is how we can start our journey of learning front-end development. Most of the companies that are widely used are built on React.js as of now. For example, Netflix, Tesla, all these companies are using React.js to write the front-end code of their website. The front-end code is what? The things that a customer or the user can see on a website. Correct? Okay. So this is how we will start with front end. I'll be coming to each and every part in some time. What all to learn in HTML, what all to learn in CSS, in JavaScript, in React.js. Okay, I'll be coming to this in a bit. Now let's talk about backend. This is front end, so that you guys don't forget. Okay. Now, in terms of backend, there are multiple things. When we saw the example of a waiter, that a customer is asking from the waiter that, please, can you bring me a pizza? The customer is going to the backend, that is kitchen. They are getting the pizza from there and they are bringing to us, to the customer, right? So the waiter over there is known as API. Now, what is an API? The communication between front end and back end is known as API. I'll give you a practical example over here. But for now, just you can say API is a communication tool between front end as well as back end. How can front end and back end communicate with each other? How can front end and database can communicate with each other? With the help of APIs. Okay, so these stands for application programming interface. This is nothing but a tool that acts as a mode of communication between front end and back end. Now, the most important part of a backend is database, because there only we'll be storing the data, right? So database is nothing but a storage. It is nothing but a storage that stores the data. That stores the data of the website. So what example can we give? Once you go to a website, you need to sign up, right? If you are visiting a website for the very first time, you need to sign up to create your credentials, your email ID and password. Once you sign up on that profile, after coming back to that website, the same website, do you need to sign up again? No. Now you only need to log in, right? So in case of sign up, you need to give your name, your phone number, your email, your password, etc. Right? But once you come back after signing up, if you want to log in, you just have to give the email ID or the phone number and the password. That's it. So we can say that once you were signing up, your data got stored somewhere. And that's why it is recognizing you that the data is created. Now you just need to verify it, that it is correct or not. If it is correct, I'll be logging you in. If not, then I'll be saying that the username or password or anything is not correct. Okay. This is a very high level view of what full stack is. If we go more deep into this, let's start with HTML now. Let's start with HTML. HTML is a structure of a website. Remember, HTML is a structure of a website. Inside HTML, there are multiple things by using what you can create a structure. So there are head. Okay, so let me show you a structure of this. In HTML, we have majorly two parts. One is head, other is body. Anything above the URL, this is the URL, right? Anything above the URL, which is over here, comes under head. Anything below the URL, which is this complete part is body. Okay. So what do we write the things inside head? For example, free online whiteboard, Samsung S22 byproducts. The heading of the tab that is open comes under head. And whatever data we want to show in a normal browser or the normal window comes under body. Okay, so there are two important parts. One is head, second is body. In body, first of all, in head, we have title, which I was telling that what name we want to put in the tab, that comes under title. Whatever CSS we are loading, don't worry about this loading part. I'm just saying when you are linking a CSS, you need to do inside head. This will be coming to in a bit. Okay. If you see about body, all your code over here, the filters part, the sort by or sortings part, your cards part, the phone that you are showing over here, this blue color navbar that you are showing, everything comes under body. Okay. So body is where we'll be writing our actual code. Now inside body, there can be multiple things. For example, if you are writing a description, you will need some tags known as p tags, paragraph tags. If you want to write a heading, you can use h1, h2, h3, and so on tags. If you want to create a table, if a condition arises that you want to create a table inside your web page, you can use table tag. Okay. The same way, if you want to create a form, for example, a login form, a sign up form. That also you can do by using form tags. So tags are nothing but just an element that you are creating. You might have seen this HTML. I'm going from very basic. So if you see over here, we have HTML, we have head, inside we have title, title close, head close. Let's open body. All your code will be coming over here. For example, in a paragraph tag, I'm saying hello, paragraph tag close. If everything is done, you can close the body. And finally, you can close the HTML. So this is a structure of a HTML, right? So all these tags can be used to create different elements. If you want to create a description, you can use paragraph tag. If you want to create a heading, you can use h1, h2, h3 tags. So all these tags perform a specific action that we can utilize. Okay. Also, there are multiple things like we can add images, we can add video. At the very last, I'll be telling all the complete things in a simple writing matter. Okay, the actual roadmap. So just bear with me for now. We have images, we have video, we have audio. Okay. We have storages. So there's one more type of storage other than backend in front end. So this is basically a storage that is stored in the front end only. For example, if I'm storing something in the front end, that data won't be available in the backend or in the actual database. Okay. You're understanding this, right? The actual database can be an example of a pen drive. When you buy a pen drive, you store some data inside it, right? You attach to your laptop, you put some data inside it, and you can use it afterwards anytime. Basically, you can take the data from it. You can pass the pen drive to some other person. So your data gets stored inside the pen drive. Whoever will be having the pen drive, they will be having the data as well. But over here, the pen drive, if you consider this, that the pen drive is in cloud, or the pen drive is in a like it is not visible, but it is somewhere kept. Your actual data is kept in a physical form somewhere, but you cannot see it and you don't know where it is put. These are known as clouds. You might have heard about this, clouds, right? So clouds contains our data, but we don't know the exact location where that is stored. We can access this via internet. We can add some data in clouds. We can get the data that we have added from the clouds. Basically, an example is Google Drive. Google Drive is the best example of clouds. Here, the data gets stored, but we don't know where it got stored. If we want to get it, we can get it. If we want to add more data, we can add more data inside it. But we don't know actually that where this physical storage is being stored. So these are known as clouds. It is also a database. Pen drive was also a database. Pen drive was also containing some data. It was storing some data. Hard disks are also databases. They store the data. Right. But what if you want to store a data in a general form or in a location from where anything can be accessed? You can access from an internet. That is cloud. So you can assume that multiple hard drives are stored in a location that we don't know, but our data actually gets stored over there. So cloud is not an imaginary thing. It is an actual space where our physical data is stored. So if someone says to you that cloud is nothing, it does not exist, that they are wrong. Cloud does exist. We don't know the exact location, but there are actually physical hardwares, SSDs or hard disks, which stores our data. Okay. So this is HTML, basically the structure of a website. Now let's come to CSS. CSS has all the design things, basically background colors, text colors, alignments. Okay. So for learning this, you will have to learn basically simple things. These are, which is selectors. How can you select an element? How can you select an HTML element? We are creating some elements. We are creating some structure using HTML, right? We need to style them as well. So for styling, first we will need to pick that element that we want to style. For example, over here, if I want to style this bank of a text as in green color, if I want to style it this way, I will have to first pick it up. Correct? Once I grab this text, then only I can give the green color to it. If I give green color to everything, all the text will be green, but I don't want that. These are in blacks, these are in grays, these are in light grays. I only want bank of a text to be in green color. So I will first select this text, then I will give color to it. So first we need to see selectors. These are of multiple types: class, ID, tag names. We can select the elements by these things. Now, how can we place them? How alignment happens? So for these, we have to learn grid or flexbox. This will teach you how you can align the elements in a web page. Now, there are something known as fonts. We can increase the size of a font. We can decrease the size of a font. We can give some styles to it. For example, if I want to give some font style to a particular text, I can give that as well. I want to change the font style of complete web page. I can do that as well. Okay. Cool. Now, another thing that you will need to learn over here is units, which is basically in pixels, in REMs, in RMs. Okay. So for example, in a scale, we have millimeters and centimeters, right? To as a measure, as a unit to measure something. In the same way, we have to give these type of units when we are playing around with CSS. So we have pixels, REMs, RMs. Okay. The fifth thing that we can learn is inheritance. Inheritance is what? Inheriting something. So in case of CSS, we can inherit some properties that were applied to some different element. For example, if you see over here, give me a second. Yeah. 50 to 90 text, this price text, and bank offer text. These all are in green colors, 38% off, 4.3 rating. These all are in green color. So if I want to inherit the property or the styles of this 50 to 90 text in the bank offer text, I can do that. So over here, I won't be writing the CSS 2 times. Once I have written inside this price CSS that it should be green, it should have this font, it should have this font size, I'll be using that same the styles in the bank offer as well. So I can do that with the help of inheritance. Now we have pseudo elements and pseudo selectors. What are these? These are generally the things that might be used. Okay. For example, if I'm hovering on any of the item, the text color changes to blue, right? So these are my pseudo elements. Whenever I click on this, it becomes my pseudo element. And I change the color of the pseudo element. Okay. So we have pseudo elements as well as pseudo selectors. Okay. Positioning we have talked about, which is grid, flexbox. Okay. Got it. Now we have covered things in CSS. We can look the things in JavaScript. JavaScript is similar to all the other languages, and it is very similar to C++ and C. So this will have the same topics or similar topics as compared to C++. First, we will need to learn variables. There are basically three types of variables that you can create: let versus, or you can say let, const, and var. Okay. Then second thing that you can learn is the scopes or hosting. Whenever you create a function, the variables have some scope, that these variables can be used inside a particular function. They can be used outside a particular function. Okay. So the scope of a variable, or basically anything, the scope of anything is that the area where you can use those things. For example, if I have a function over here, and if I create a variable over here, let's say let a. Let a. This is a variable that I have created. And this function is under another function. This function is under another function. Now a cannot be used in function a. A variable cannot be used in function a. It cannot be used over here. Why? Because it is declared inside function b, and the scope of variable a is inside function b only. It cannot come out of it. Okay. Then we have something as closures. This you will understand with functions. Then we have execution context. Execution context is the block where JavaScript runs. So it is this type of context. We also say this as global execution context. This is where our actual JavaScript runs. Which function will run first? What thing will be evaluated first? Everything, the order and the speed of execution, everything is determined by global execution context, or simply an execution context. Anything which comes over here, for example, if I'm calling a function a function, it will execute it. Okay. So execution context is responsible for executing each and every line of JavaScript. Okay. After this, you will need to learn operators. Basically, there are different types of operators. For example, arithmetic operators, assignment operators, and comparing operators, etc. Okay. So they are used for calculation purposes. Then you will have to learn about arrays. If you have studied this in C++, arrays are basically a storage of contiguous memory. So this is somewhat this. We can store data in contiguous memory locations. Contiguous memory location means when one data is stored, the next data over here will be stored just beside this in terms of memory, not in terms of visual, but in terms of actual memory. For example, if it is on X address, this element will be on X plus 1 address. So the memory address of these things will be just side by side. Okay. Then we have objects. Objects are key value pairs. Objects are key value pairs. These are similar to dictionaries in Python. Okay. Then you have to learn about functions. We have different types of functions in JavaScript. Arrow functions, anonymous functions, okay, etc. So there are multiple types of functions that you will need to look into. Okay. Let's remove everything, or let me write it over here. Space is a bit less, so please bear it with me. Now, after doing this, you will have to learn about error handlings. Error handlings is basically, for example, if you are calling an API, or if you are communicating with the backend, the database, and if something wrong happens, the data cannot be brought or the internet connection gets lost. In any of the errors, we need to handle that. So that will come under error handling. That will be try catch blocks. React.js completely works on components. For example, this navbar, all this complete web page is divided into multiple components. For example, this navbar is a component, this complete navbar. The phone description, this complete thing is one component. And this component is being used again and again for different data. If you look closely over here, the designs are exactly the same. All the bank offers are with greens. All the text are with greens. And the images on the left, description on the middle, and the present on the right. The images are changing, the description are changing, that is correct, but the structure is same, right? So we can create a component out of this. This electronics, TV and appliances, men, women, this all is a component. Okay. So JavaScript works on components. Functional components are what the components that are being used currently in the industry. We can write class components as well, but these are old schools and we won't be using it from now on. Like in the current industry, class components are not being used. Then you will have to learn about lifecycle methods. Lifecycle methods as a heavy name, but the work is very simple. There are basically three types of methods. One, when you load a website, when this website is loaded. Okay. The second method is when you are updating something in a website. For example, you are changing the quantity of the product or anything. The third thing is when you close this component or when you close this web page. Okay. So in the life cycle method, same as the life cycle of a human, that is birth, and then you live and then you die, right? So in the same case, a component or a web page has life cycle methods. First, it is born. That means it is loaded. Second is we live. So the component is living and updating. Our age changes, right? So in the same way, web page also gets updated. The third phase is that this page gets completely lost or we close this. So this what you will be learning in the lifecycle methods. Then you will have to look into API calls. The same example, here is the customer, here is the waiter, here is the backend, basically the database, right? So you will send a request to the database and you will get some response from the database. I'll be coming to this API in the backend part, but this is an API, the communication between front end as well as backend, right? This is an API. So API calls are basically you ask something from the database and you get something from the database. Okay. Once you do this, you will have to learn about client-side rendering and server-side rendering. So these are basically two types of rendering. There is one more type of rendering, which is static site rendering, but we will only look for now CSR and SSR, which is client-side rendering and server-side rendering. So by using this, we can render or we can load our web page in two parts. One is that we can load completely in our client. Second is we can load completely our web page into server. So server is nothing but a cloud and client is the browser that you are using. Okay, so this is majorly two types of rendering that we will look into. And yes, then you will have to learn about optimizations. How can you make your React app fast? How can you make the routing better? Routing is basically from moving one page to another. How can you create your functions in an optimized way so that your website is fast? It does not get loaded again and again. Okay. In this complete thing, you will be completing the front end part. After this, if you want, you can get into Next.js. But that is the step after you have completed React.js. Okay. Now let's come to, I hope this was clear. If you have any questions, any doubts, you can like post it in the channel. We will be picking this up in some time. Now, if I come to backend, in backend, we have two things. One is API and one is database. So by now, you might have understood database is just a container where we store things. So this is a storage. And API is just used for communication between front end and backend, right? So API is just a tool that is used for communication between front end and backend. And the database is the actual storage where our data gets stored. So API works on majorly four parts. Basically, there are CRUD operations, which is create, read, update, and delete. So what are these operations? In an API, we send something from the backend, front end, and we get something from the backend, right? Front end, we go to backend, we ask something. This is known as request, and this is known as response. So front end asks something from the backend. For example, it says, please give me all the iPhones so that I can show. So there are many possibilities that in the database, iPhone is not present. Second possibility is that iPhone is out of stock. Third possibility is that you find the iPhone, right? So there can be majorly three possibilities: that iPhone is not present in the database, iPhone is available but out of stock, and iPhone is not available. iPhone is available. So you will be sending a request from front end to back end that I want an iPhone. The backend will search in the database whether that iPhone is present or not. If it is present, then it is out of stock or not. So that particular response they'll be sending to the front end again with the help of API. So there are two things in API. One is request, and second is response. So request is something that a front end does for a backend. So the front end will be requesting something from a backend. For example, give me all the iPhones. In the database, it will get all the iPhones, whatever they are present, and it will send back to front end. The same example of grocery, that you say to a shopkeeper that I want a packet of Maggi. They will go to that shelf. So the shopkeeper is API for now. The shopkeeper will go to the shelf. Shelf is database. It will pick Maggi from it. There can be again 2 conditions or 3 conditions, that the Maggi is not present, right? Or the Maggi is present. If the Maggi is out of stock, they will come back and they will say that Maggi is not present. Can you take something else? Or they can say that Maggi is present and they will give the Maggi, right? So the shopkeeper is the API in our case. It is taking a request that bring me Maggi. It goes to the storage, to the shelf. It gets the Maggi and come back with a response that, hey, I found the Maggi, you can take it. Okay. So requests basically can contain 4 things. That is create, read, update, and delete, CRUD operations, which are these. Now, if I give an example, if you go to a website for the very first time and you sign up, in their database, your credentials won't be there. Your email, your password, your phone number, your name won't be there already, right? Because you are coming for the very first time. So to take that details and to store or create a new field in a database, they will ask you to sign up. Once you sign up, the API will be performing a create operation. API will be performing a create operation in the database. What it will be saying? It will be saying that we got a new user, store or create a new field and store the name, email, password, and whatever you have given. Now, if you come back to the same website, the credentials are only stored. They are already stored, right? You just have to log in. So if you give email and password, they will match in the backend in the database that if it is correct or not. If it is correct, they will say you can log in. If it is not, they will say that please check the email or password, something is wrong. In that case, if we just want to read some data, we perform read operation. We are only taking the data from the front end and we are reading from the back end. We are just matching it, that the user which has output, which has given it now is equal to the things that they have provided while signing up. Now, if you see the example of forgot password, you can relate it with update method. If I forgot a password and if I still want to log in, what I'll do is I'll simply click on forgot password. I'll change my password and I'll create a new password. So in this case, now in the database where my earlier password was stored, that is now updated with my new password, so that if I come again to log in, I'll be successfully doing that. Okay. In that case, API will be doing the update method. And delete is simply when you want to delete a file or a username or completely your profile, you can just click on delete and it will completely delete all the things that are present of yours from the database. It will completely delete your account. So these are 4 operations that you can perform using APIs. And database is just a storage. Now, if we talk about database, there can be multiple databases. You might have heard about MongoDB, Firebase, SQL, NoSQL, right? So these are different types of databases that we can create. What type of database we should create, that totally depends on what type of thing that we are working on. Okay. So these databases behave differently. In some types, they are SQL data types. That means they are connected to each other. The tables inside the databases, everything is stored inside tables. So tables inside databases in SQLs are related to each other. But in case of NoSQLs, the data of tables are not related to each other. So this, what we have to use, it completely depends on our use case, that what we want to create as our project. But I'll suggest you to learn all of these. These are not very tough. These are very similar to each other. Okay. Once you do this, once you know how to create a database, you will learn how to create APIs. You will need to learn how to create APIs. Once your data is stored inside database, you will communicate with the front end, right? With your actual data, which is present in backend. For that purpose, you will need to learn how to create APIs. For that, you will learn about Node.js. Create APIs. Okay. You will learn Node.js. By using this, you can create APIs. Inside this APIs, there will be multiple things. One will be web security, whether your API is secure or not. For example, if you are doing a transaction, in that case, you have credit card information or debit card information. If your API is not secured, in that case, any hacker can hack the API or your account, and they can perform bad activities, right? So first thing that you will have to learn about is web security. Second is, how can you improve the speed optimization? This is also known as latency. How can you reduce the latency? For example, if you are creating a website, it should get us the result in front end in very less time, right? We don't want the user or the customer to wait for a long time. We want it that whenever they search, they should get the exact same thing very fast. So you will need to learn about optimizations. Then you will, once you have created a database, you have created APIs, then you will need to learn about connect API with the database. Now you will be doing actual operations in the database by connecting API to the database that you have created. Okay. Once it is done, there's something known as JWT tokens. JWT tokens. These tokens are a security that provides to an API. So the backend, if you're sending a JWT token, the backend understands or verifies that you have only sent it. No other person is creating a request. You have only the successful or the expected person is only requesting the data from the backend. If we pass the JWT, that is verified. So we'll have to learn about JSON web tokens. Once you have done this, there are multiple things to learn as well, which is GraphQL. Once you have completely done this, Node.js, creating APIs, then we have something known as REST APIs. These are basically the format or the way of writing APIs. We have different formats, we have different ways. Okay. Once everything is completed, once you connect the API with database, you will perform all these operations CRUD in the database, which is create, read, update, and delete. And once you have done this, you will now see how to connect front end with backend, which is database and the API. Once everything is done, you will learn how to connect front end with database through API, which is backend. So if you break down in very simple terms, what your roadmap should be. Roadmap for full stack developer. learn HTML, learn CSS, learn JavaScript. Okay. Then create two projects using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay. Once you have studied HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you have to create two projects and of the same things. What you have learned theoretically, you will have to portray it in the actual application as well. After this, you can first take front end. In front end, you can hop into React.js. After learning all the theoretical and practical part of this, you have to create minimum of two projects, and they should be responsive. Responsive means whatever project you are making should be seen beautifully on all the screen sizes, in the laptop as well, in phone as well, and in the tab as well. Okay, they should be responsive. This responsive part will be handled by CSS. Now you will learn database, SQL, NoSQL, MongoDB, Firebase, anything you can choose. Then you will have to learn how to make APIs, how to perform operations on it, the create, read, update, and delete operations. Then you will learn how to connect API with backend. Once API is connected with backend, you will learn how to connect front end with backend with the help of APIs. Once this is completed, what you can do is whatever project you have created over here in React.js, two projects, you can convert it into a full stack project. How? Since the front end is already completed, you can create the backend and then you can link together, or you can create another project from scratch which will contain both front end as well as backend. So I'll say over here, create minimum two projects. They should have front end, backend, CRUD operations. These are very important. Okay. Then you will learn how to deploy your website. Deployment basically means that the website you're developing is on your local. How can you deploy your website so that you can use this URL? Basically, you can access it via internet in any of the laptop or any of the phone. Anyone can access it. It is not only present in your local. So you will have to learn how to deploy the website. Then you will learn Git and GitHub. Git and GitHub. This is a version control. What do we mean by version control? Whatever things you are changing, or whatever things you are adding, or whatever things you are deleting from your project. Okay. So basically, whatever change that you are doing in your project, that needs to be stored somewhere, right? If you have it in your local, there are many possibilities that the code can be lost, your laptop can stop working, or for example, if multiple people are working on the same project, then if you are making some changes that won't be possible, that won't be visible in some other person's laptop, right? So you will learn how to use Git and GitHub. In this way, you will be actually creating your copy of code in the cloud. So from there, it can never be lost. If you want to take that code, or if you want to get that code from the GitHub, anytime you can do that. And by using GitHub, more than one people can work on the same project. Okay. Yes. So this is how you will be taking your path from being a beginner in web development to being a pro at web development. First, it is not necessary that you start with front end. You can reverse the steps. You can learn first back end, then you can learn front end, or you can first learn front end, then you can learn back end. But I'll suggest you that be very good in at least one thing. So be very good in front end, and you can be good at back end as well. But from front end and back end, choose one thing that will be that in which you will be the best. Okay, this can be back end, this can be front end, or anything. Don't just fully focus on the full stack part. Make yourself best at one thing first, either the front end or the back end. Then you will have to make yourself best at the other thing, right? Don't be this, don't go this way that you are not being best in any of the things and you are just doing for the sake of doing, right? So you can see the things, you can analyze how you like doing the things, whether you like front end, whether you like back end, whatever you like, you can just go deep inside that and you can excel in this. Jobs are available for both front end developers, it is available for back end developers, it is also available for full stack developers. So there's no like difference in the jobs. You can be a good front end developer, you can be a good back end developer, or you can be a good full stack developer. That's up to you. But I'll suggest you first to be good at one thing first, then move on to other thing. Okay, cool. So I guess that would be it for the roadmap.